time you are getting to meet me, getting to know me. Inaudi, I use the pronouns she and her. Soy Dominicana, born in Dominican Republic, raised between the Bronx, of course, Washington Heights, because most of us Dominicans, that's where we start our journey in New York City. So if anybody here who is watching is on from the city, please say hi and hey and tell me where you're from. I've been in the Hudson Valley, though, for over 20 years. So that's my home as well. Went to school back in Dominican Republic because I'm a smart kid. When I was 18, graduating from high school, and my dad said, you want to stay here with your siblings because we're going home and you could figure it out for college, or do you want to come back home and I'll pay for college? Hey, y'all, that was not a hard decision. I went home, and it was probably the hardest 3 years of my life when it comes to education. So that's my background. That's my upbringing. I am neurodivergent, which means I have ADHD and my brain just works differently. Imagine if any of you all out there who are watching and listening, you know when you've got your computer and you've got like 20 different, 30 maybe, I won't judge if more, tabs open on Explorer or Chrome. That's the way my brain works. There's just something always going on. I have 5 jobs, 3 kids, a dog, a cat, lots of plants. See the babies in the back? And I couldn't do it any different. And all of a sudden, I now am hosting a podcast. So excited. I want to say hi to some of the people coming on. Hi, Faith and Robbie. I see Brian's supporters. I see y'all out here. Lisa, thank you for joining from the South Bronx. Girl, I am from Marble Hill area. So let's get to it because, I mean, yeah, you are kind of here to me, right? For me, but you're also here for our guest. But before I introduce to you my friend, my wonderful, wonderful friend, let me tell you why the Good Human Chronicles. So I work in human rights work. I work in the type of field where every single day I speak to, I get to interact with folks from all backgrounds, regardless of religion, race, gender, sexual orientation, political beliefs, ages, you name it, sizes. I work with people of all sorts, just kind of like everybody else does, because as humans, we're all different. But if you've been around for the last few years, the socioeconomic, or really the socio community, our environment, we're divided. Our country is divided. Our communities are divided. We're divided between our neighbors. Our families are divided. I mean, whoa, Thanksgiving dinner ain't the same anymore, y'all. And in the end, I find that a lot of the people that I work with, even when we differ so much in our political views, and I'll start there, right? I know so many amazing humans, and that was the inspiration for me to do this show. It is to highlight the voices of people who are different from me and you, people who have had life journeys who are different from all of us, because that's everybody. But at the end of the day, just want to be a good person. They just want to be a good human. And it is so amazing to have the privilege of being in a space where I can say, hey, E, shout out to EC Media, my producers. Let's start a podcast and let's just highlight those voices. So that's why we are here, because we get to. Bendición, tío. Oh, man, my tío Arturo just logged in. Haven't seen him in like 15, 20 years. So I get to do that. I get to highlight these voices and create a space where we get to say, hey, y'all want to hear about a really awesome person? Here it is. When I'm doing workshops and when I'm doing speaking engagements, one of the things that I share with people who need to increase their diversity, in whether it's at work or in their personal lives, one of the things I say with them is go listen to a podcast, go watch a show, immerse yourself with people who are different. And that's part of what this is, people who are different. So without further ado, let's get to my guest today. Brian, are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone who is joining me. It is my honor to introduce to you my very close friend. And we've been friends now for 10, 12, maybe years or so, right?
Oh, it's about 10 years, yeah, now.
Yeah. Assemblyman Brian Maher. Before I let you introduce yourself, Brian, I just want to tell everyone how we met. I was working for an incredible organization that works with victims of domestic violence, formerly known as Safe Homes, now called Fearless of the Hudson Valley, where my heart will always be. And I had the honor that day of walking around with our awesome political friend. And at that point, you were representing Senator Larkin. And I will
I
never forget, right? I'm giving you a tour of the office and you're just looking around and taking notes. And Brian and I hit it off immediately. Another Latinos, we just kind of connect, right? And I say, Brian, we need this. We don't have food in our pantry. We don't have, and I went down the list and Brian said, I got you. And I'm like, don't all politicians say that? But y'all, Brian actually showed up and did it. He showed up. Senator Larkin and him filled that pantry. So, Brian, tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, congratulations on the podcast. I think it's super risky to start your first Good Human Chronicles in the most political, divisive time in our lives with a politician.
Yeah.
But obviously, we go way back. We're
A
friends.
Republican at that.
Right, exactly. So I think it's brave of you, and I think it's a good example. Hopefully, others can follow that. Even if we disagree on political issues, especially at the kitchen table with relatives, that we can still be good humans and have conversation and respect one another and love each other.
Tell us about your life story, Brian. What led you
All
to
right.
where you are today? Tell us about your journey, the pivotal moments.
So I'm a product of my parents. The friends of mine that are watching this are probably getting ready to say, "Oh, I've heard this. Let me pause for 5 minutes." But for those that may not, my mother was born in Puerto Rico, came here at a young age, had to learn English, came from New York City up to Plattekill, or we lovingly call Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
And
that's a new one. I didn't know that about Plattekill, Puerto Rico.
oh yeah, absolutely, a lot of Puerto Ricans in
I love
Plattekill.
that.
She met my father at work in a factory. He lived in Ducktown in the city of Newburgh, New Windsor area, and he was very poor. He was the oldest of 6 children. His mother died of cancer when he was in his teens. He had the younger brothers and sisters and a stepdad he was living with in a trailer. And he put himself together, worked hard every day, met and fell in love with my mother before his 20th birthday. And by the time he was 27 years old, he had 5 children. I was the youngest of those 5. He had 5 younger brothers and sisters to take care of. And he worked several jobs with my parents between them. And when I talk about my story and who I am, I'm a product of my parents. I saw every day what hard work was growing up, and they made sure that we had a better life than they did. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I was on food stamps and I struggled to eat, because we didn't. My parents worked very hard to make sure that that was not the case. So we grew up with a lot of love and a lot of church. And for me, basketball was my passion. So when people say, "Who are you?" When I was 5 years old, the earliest memories of my life, I had a passion and a love for basketball, whether it was a Fisher Price hoop or getting knocked down by my 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters who were all bigger than me. I just had that competitive edge and that desire and that love to play. And
I
my
thought white men
parents,
can't jump, Brian.
I'm Puerto Rican. Come on now. Keep up.
Oh,
Right?
that's right.
But
I
no, I
love
can't jump either. It's okay.
It's
um,
interesting because I know that we've talked about this before, but I too am, well, I'm the second youngest of 5, right?
oh,
So
that's great.
we share that understanding of what it's like to have siblings, right? And as my daughter, shout out to Allie, who's watching and is so proud right now. Baby girl, mommy is nervous. Keep sending those text messages. But we were just talking about how her big brother is always on her and getting annoying. And I'm like, listen, all right, you've only got one big brother and one little brother. Girl, I had to grow up with 4 siblings total. So you have nothing to complain about. So I get that. I totally get that.
I
And tell
love
me
it.
more, right? Tell me more.
Yeah,
So as you get older, Mr. Youngest mayor ever elected in New York State? How the heck did
yeah.
that happen?
Well, when I realized I couldn't jump that high, and my body didn't really sustain itself through my college basketball playing days, I realized, hey, I'm not going to play professional basketball overseas anymore. Too many injuries, just wasn't able to physically get through it. What do I want to do? And that's where I realized a big part of my passion and love for basketball and competing was being at a basketball game, having the arena filled with people, and bringing people together from different high school cliques or parts of the
Mm-hmm.
community or political views or different races. When we all played basketball, they came there, they hugged each other, they cheered for the same team, whether it was theirs or somebody else's, and it brought people together. And that really was something that I identified later that was a big calling for me. So when it came to what I loved about basketball, it was also my passion and love for people and being able to impact people in a positive way.
So
So when
you've
I was in,
always been bringing people together.
it's something that I noticed for sure. But when I got elected mayor, I used that basketball to start clinics for kids.
Mm,
I was very young. I didn't have the experience, so I made up for it with passion and energy and a real focus on kids.
mm,
We did a fundraiser. You can see Christian Cooey there on the bottom left, where we raised money for that kid right there who had cancer, who lost all of his hair eventually, and he
mm.
eventually beat it. We took care of some bills for his family. And I was always just focused on just being there for the youth and for all people, really. But to be creative, to find programs, we picked little businesses and found 14 to 17-year-old kids jobs, and we created a program that made sure they got to work. But for me, making that transition from the basketball arena to the political arena was still all about helping people and serving my community.
Mm.
And once I got hooked on politics, on government, on my community, that really became my passion. And all the energy I took to becoming a collegiate athlete, I put all that towards reading, intellect, informing myself, figuring out what I needed to do to be the best version of me I could to help other people.
So here's a fun fact about Brian. We were on the phone recently and he means it. And he is constantly looking to better himself, right? So you're always looking how to improve, how to, and we're recently on the phone and you shared with me your most recent passion, which is actually not recent at all because I think you started this last year, the master classes.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just love
So
that. I love that you love to continue getting better at yourself because personal growth is so important. And as exhausting as it is for us with all these jobs and all these responsibilities, but you don't stop learning.
no, 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 no. It is a quality that I would define in a good human for sure. But the
Mm.
master classes was a gift from my wife Becky, who is actually very good at giving gifts. I am very bad at giving gifts, apparently, but she is very good, and that was one of the gifts. She created a subscription to the master classes, and I learned so much from so many different industry leaders. And whether it was somebody who was a playwright or someone who was a communications expert, it was really just amazing to be able to have that gift from Becky and honestly even share some of those stories with my daughter Mia and my kids.
Someone has a
And
birthday today, Brian.
yeah, actually so we celebrated her birthday today. We were in the city yesterday for her favorite dinner, Raising Cane's, and we surprised her by staying overnight. And her favorite show is the Today Show, so we
Tell
surprised
us
her.
who. You haven't told us whose birthday it was today and how old is she turning?
This morning we celebrated Mia's 10th birthday
Happy birthday,
by bringing
Mia.
her to the Today Show. Happy birthday, baby girl.
Yes. And kudos to Becky, who you gave credit to for, because clearly Becky's really good with these gifts.
Good with gifts,
So,
good with
Becky.
planning, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, listen, there's usually a mastermind in every relationship, right?
for sure. For
So,
sure.
thank you for giving us that background and a little bit about your journey. Um, and a little bit of an intro to who you are and your growth. And I love hearing this, but like, let's talk about the challenges, right? Because to grow, we need to face challenges, right? Um, think of one challenge you faced that tested your character and talk to us about it.
So as we were talking about this podcast, there were two things that I know got brought up, and one was kind of the biggest influence, and one was challenges, right? So I'm going to kind of
Mhm.
group those two together.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest influence in my life have been the people that have been not so good humans to me. So
Mm,
instead of saying, "Hey, there's one person that has really taught me so much, that has really been there for me," because
mm,
there have been so many, the folks that have really I learned from the most were those that brought the most challenging situations to me that were not very good to me, and that gave me the leadership skills that I needed because I knew how not to treat people, and I knew how it felt to be hurt and to be talked to a certain way. And at the end of the day, we need toughness, we need people to be direct, but when it comes to directing pain on people for a purpose that is not one that is positive or for their growth, that's something I always wanted to stay away from.
yeah.
So it is definitely that
Brian,
that
I'm
influence.
off the clock. I need an answer. Like, can you give us an example, Brian, of a time? Doesn't matter which example it is, but give us the
Yeah,
real answer. What happened
yeah.
and how did you overcome it and why did it suck so much?
Yeah, so today, some news broke about Sharon Tony Finch, and she was just indicted, and the federal government is really looking on putting charges on her for the homeless veterans issue. And for me, that was such a horrible moment in my professional career and personal life because I was caught up in something that was obviously a fake news story, someone who made up this horrible, horrible lie. But what it did was it provided an opportunity for me and my good name and my parents' name to be used in a way that divided people, that created anger and created anxiety. And when I first heard about the news of these homeless veterans being kicked out, I was angry. And that anger got the better of me. And as much as it was important for me to advocate for veterans in that moment, which was really my driving force, um, that still was not just what happened. I wasn't just
Right.
advocating for veterans. It was something that really divided people, that made people angry. There were folks at the hotel that were just employees that were getting death threats. And
And
at the end of the
let me
day,
jump
when
in a little bit for folks who are
yeah,
listening and watching who don't know the background or what you're talking about. So unfortunately, the part of the lie was that because of the migrants coming in, the veterans were kicked out. So what that did was created a divide and furthered the adding fuel to the fire of send those migrants back home. They don't belong here. They're taking up our resources. And now, oh my gosh, they're coming after the veterans too. The story was sensationalized in ways where it really hurt a lot of people, and I'll never forget these moments where I'm getting phone calls and text messages and like, oh my gosh. And and Brian, you went on the what was it, the New York Post?
no, I went on over a dozen, probably nationally
Right.
syndicated, either TV or newspapers. And for me, the moral of the story was watch what you say, because what you say, even if you're saying it for the right reasons, and even if
Yeah.
your cause, whether it was true or not, whether it was the cause was something that you believed in, think about what you're doing and how it can impact and hurt other people. And
Yeah.
that's something that I should have known over 10 years in my political career, and I should have known definitely better. But it's something I learned. I used it as a teaching moment, and that's my point, right? It was a horrible time, but I used it as a teaching moment, and most important for me, it taught me like who is most important in my life. You know, who are the
Mm,
people I can rely on the most, and the people that got me through that were my family, were my kids. Just
mm,
hugging my kids and realizing, look, the most important thing for you to do on this earth is be a good dad. If you can be a good dad and give your kid good memories like my parents did for me, it's going to shape them, and that will shape the world. And that
mm.
really was what I learned from that entire situation.
Yeah, I mean, something that we often talk about is quite often we are guilty of, in the process of including, we exclude others, right? And similar to that thought process, I think in the process of you being a good human and fighting for your cause, you weren't thinking of what's the impact, right? You are, when it comes to the community, you're respected, your voice is listened to, you're heard, right? And this is something I talk to other politician friends, specifically Republicans. We talk about language, right? We talk about, please stop using the words illegal alien. As an immigrant myself, right? Oh, it hurts. I cringe, right?
You should definitely let the president know to stop using that term.
Mm. Are we gonna go
We
there,
can
bro?
digress.
I'm ready.
We
I
can
mean,
digress.
we're gonna go
We can
there. We're gonna go
we can
there because I'm
we
about to
can
run.
digress. We can digress,
Nowdy
but I'm
for president 20 now. But yeah, right. The impact that language has, and when you start just kind of changing, right, that of your followers, just something as simple as let me call it this and not that, because we're still gonna say undocumented, immigrants. That's technically what it is, right? That's okay. Um, so I'm glad you learned and that we were able to talk, you and I, off the record, on our phones, where I saw the side of you that felt like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, right? And then you took action. And by the way, you took action outside of the cameras, because to you, the apologies, the healing, you weren't trying to publicly, no, you were doing the right thing, and you showed up to the places where the people who needed to hear you be accountable for what it did, right,
Yeah,
unintendedly.
yeah.
So that to me is a sign of a good human. So thank you for sharing that, for talking about that. How do you know, when you look at yourself as an individual, as a human, right, and you consider yourself, like, you just started to share how you've grown, how do you know what are the most important qualities? How do you even consider what is a good human supposed to be like, so that we can make a better world, a better community?
So for me, a good human is someone who cares so much about people that they take care of themselves. And
Mm.
what I mean by that is you can't help anybody if you don't strengthen yourself, your core, have that confidence in who you are. Being a good human isn't doing so much for other people that you burn yourself out, or that you help people too quickly. To be a good human, you need to inform yourself. You need to continually educate yourself. And the more that we do that, the better we'll be ourselves, and the better humans will be naturally, because we'll be more informed. We live in this world now with a communication cycle and a news cycle that's all about just clicks and hits, and the content is so quick. It's not real information a lot of the times. It's opinion. It's sensationalized, like you said. And being someone who was caught up in a story similar to that, I learned that I would never want to do that again. So when it comes to being a good human, please just inform yourselves, continue to work on yourself, be the best version of you can be. And then when you are strong and you have that core, then you can help other people. And that's really a message that I would send. And that's something that's important for me to let people know.
I love that. There's something called cultural humility. Have you ever heard the term?
Explain it
Yeah, I'm gonna.
for your viewers. Yeah.
Of course. So there was this thing called cultural competence many, many years ago. And competence implies that you take that 2-hour course and I got this. I know everything there is to know about people. Done. I'm competent. Cultural humility is the understanding that we never stop learning
Yeah,
about culture,
that's
about other
absolutely.
people, but also about ourselves, and how important it is for us to do that work and challenge ourselves and our biases, and challenge the things that we've always known and we've always thought right, because that's just the way it's always been. But what if they're not right for other people? So when I hear you talking about learning, I want to push and say to everyone who's with us, remember to learn about the other side too. Remember to challenge yourself. If you're watching, let's say, CNN, I don't know, every once in a while, watch Fox News. If you're watching Fox News, I'd say shut it off, but that's just me. But every once in a while, I don't know, watch CNN, right? But most importantly, inform yourself of who's actually giving us facts and who's giving us just plain old biased opinions based on what they believe, right? Go straight to the source. Go to APR and listen to the facts. This is what happens, and now go form your own opinion on it. Versus what so many people we do, because it's the easiest way to do it, right? We go to the sources that tell us what we already believe because it's the easiest way for our brains to manage and place them, right? But I challenge people to learn about others and learn about the things that make you uncomfortable, especially the things that make you uncomfortable. I love seeing you do bipartisan work. I love
I love doing bipartisan work, and if you look at my social media feeds,
it.
almost
Hmm.
every single time you'll see me talking about the work that I'm doing with Democrats. Because when you talk about being a good human, and we talk about how divided our country and our world are, politics is a big part of that. You can't
Yeah.
really escape it, right?
Nope.
So when I have the opportunity to spend my day talking about the things that I agree with my Democrat colleagues, I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend less time on the rhetoric. I'm going to spend less time making people angry. I've seen it. I saw it at the national level. I know that
Yeah.
I don't want to be a part of that anymore. And so when I advocate, when I'm on the assembly floor and I'm talking to a colleague, what people don't know is I've already given them the questions. I will take them aside and I'll say, I'm going to ask you A, B, C, and D, because I
Mm.
want you to be prepared for the questions that I ask so that we can have an actual debate that is productive, that's going to lead to better legislation or a better conversation. I don't want to just be up there to make you look bad for a gotcha moment. That's not why I
Mm.
spend time away from my kids to go to Albany. So my Democrat counterparts have learned, I believe, to respect me in that sense that I'm there genuinely to get work done, and that has allowed me a seat at the table to really try to make some moves and make certain legislation better. And two bills that Democrat colleagues that I had that were working on.
Please share. Give us some examples. We love it.
Well, I don't want to give these two examples. I will only say this: they are no longer on the floor. They were taken off the floor because there were things that I pointed out that could potentially hurt people they were trying to help. So they took them off, and they're
Mm.
editing them. Whereas maybe if I wasn't part of that conversation, they would have been passed, they would have been adopted. And one particular law was mandating certain aspects of areas where we had homeless shelters.
Mm.
But the mandate would have created an impossible issue that they would not have been able to fund, which would have either meant closing doors or just putting money where it shouldn't have been put. So, because of
Mm.
that conversation, that was not passed, and we're working on making that better so that it can be worded differently. Little things like that go a long way, and it gives me a good feeling about the purpose that we have. Again, not just in New York, but that's an example that hopefully we can follow at the federal level as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that we find is that when we get so stuck on titles, on right, on these blocks that and labels that we give ourselves, we forget to listen and we forget to listen. Period. Right.
Yeah.
And part of being able to work with people on the other side of the aisle is building those relationships so that they can see you as a person, not as a insert political party here, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have to build those relationships. You have to show them that, hey, okay, there's an R or D or an I or whatever else those other letters are next to my name, but I'm here to do work for my community, the people who elected me. Um, and that's what you're here for. And then we can start to work together to actually change the things that are impacting. There is an awesome story I want you to share about a young little girl in Alaska. Is it Alaska?
Little Rock, Arkansas.
Little Rock, Arkansas. I mean, is that kind of close to Alaska?
Nope. But
Probably not.
Bill Clinton's from Little Rock, Arkansas. So you should, there you go.
Look at
Boom,
that.
blue.
Hey, remember, I came when I was 9 years old, okay? I had, let's see, I came in third grade. I know nothing because everything was in English and I knew zero English. And then fourth grade, so third, fourth, and fifth, whatever geography, math they taught there, didn't stick here. So, Little Rock, tell us about that beautiful little girl you met.
Yeah, so when I was in Little Rock, Arkansas for a Young Republican National Conference, we were there. And every time I'm in a new city, I like to just kind of walk on my own. So I
Mm.
started walking past the whole commercial locations away from the hotel where we were. And I get to the outskirts and Little Rock and Arkansas in particular. is one of the poorest states in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and the poverty that's there is real, and it is not good. And when I started walking a little further, I started running into folks that really needed some help. So as I'm walking, this mother and her daughter I see them kind of like pushing a carriage towards the supermarket. And she asked me, "Hey, do you have a couple dollars? This is my daughter." And I don't know their story, right? And whenever I'm approached in this situation, if I do anything, I try to buy some food. I try to buy something that specifically could be used for the kid. So I said, "Look, you going to the grocery store? You have a carriage?" Like, "No, I just have this carriage to put things in. I'm not going to the grocery store." So, "All right, come with me." So we go to the grocery store. I say, "Go ahead, go shopping, fill up this carriage." And the girl, I'll never forget this because I didn't know what her name was at the time, but I saw her face and she was dejected. This little girl, she wasn't smiling. She did not have a smile on her face. She was sad, and I could see that. And by the time we got to like the third aisle, she started opening up, and she would hold my hand, and she smiled, and her smile was so amazing, as you can see it now on your screen. And being able to provide that smile and that happiness was such a memory that I'll never forget. That I really decided to share with social media. Some people say, "Oh, politician, he's sharing because he wants people to know." No, I wanted to share that moment with people, and the people that know me best know that that's really what it is. And we had that whole carriage. We said our goodbyes. It was a single moment. I didn't think, okay, let me figure out information and go deeper. I mean, whatever their struggle is, my hope was that that day was a good day for them, and that they eventually overcame it. And when I said goodbye and I asked the little girl her name, she said, "My name is Hope." And I started tearing a little bit. I said, "All right, I love you. Don't know you. Appreciate you. And you guys have a great day, and pay it forward," is what I said to them.
Mm. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Hope. Oh, empathy. You have empathy. I've seen it a million times. I hear it in the story that you shared. Um, how do you see it playing a role? How is it that so many other folks in positions like yours, right, don't have empathy for people in certain positions? Maybe they'll have empathy for, we talked about earlier, the veterans, right? But not the immigrants. Or maybe they'll have empathy for the homeless, but not the folks who are addicted, right? Or maybe they'll have empathy for the poor white folks, but not the poor black or brown folks. How do we bridge this? How do we bridge this? How do we fix this?
I think you have good humans and bad humans. I think you have Republicans and Democrats that don't share empathy for different reasons. Some politically motivated, some personally motivated. For the most part, from what I've seen, being in government for 14 years, most elected officials have empathy. They might have a different idea of what that looks like. Someone who is a Republican who believes in legal immigration might find it not being empathetic to provide more resources for those to create more of an issue, right? So when it comes to issues by themselves, you can have empathy and have a different opinion on what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, empathy is about getting over fear, right? And this is a word people hate. And it took me a while to really understand this. People are afraid of what they don't know. If they don't know something, that fear gets so strong that it turns into anger. And we lead with that. And when we can figure out as a society, and really it comes down to people doing this individually, personally in their own lives, really. And it comes from parents, it comes from schools, it comes from teachers, it comes from leaders, to be able to acknowledge two things. One, fear. You are afraid of what you don't know. Educate yourself and listen to overcome that fear, but admit that it is fear. And two, we really have to continue to understand how alike we are, and we don't admit that. A lot of us are so similar in so many ways, but because we live in this system where we get labels, we can't get past the initial label that we have, whether it's Republican or Democrat or black or white. And this entire victim mentality is created that creates weights instead of providing opportunities for the ability to get up and do things for yourself. There's a place for all of it. And when we can figure out a way to really acknowledge that fear and also acknowledge our own issues with mental health, then I think we're going to go a long way.
Gosh, our party pooper producer is telling us that our time's up.
Makes sense.
Party pooper. That was a beautiful way for you to close it. That was a beautiful message for you to leave us with. But I am going to make believe I'm not seeing his messages right now saying you got to stop talking. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Is there any 30 seconds? Plug in. There is an event you have coming up that I know you want to share.
So a big issue you hit on, it was opioids. I couldn't do anything that I do without my staff. So I love my staff, Megan, Damon, Eamon, Kristen, everybody.
Hey,
my whole
Megan.
team is awesome. Senator Larkin, didn't mention him at all, but he is a huge impact on my life, helped make me who I am today. Without him and the lessons I learned, I wouldn't know as much as I do know now to be able to be in a position to help people and be a good human. Senator Larkin also started an opioid task force. So on Thursday, May 9th, next week, we will be doing a opioid roundtable. And if you want to be a part of that, we will get you the information. We'll put it in the comments. We'll post the flyer in the comments, and we'll make sure that folks can partake in Pine Bush with Supervisor Charlie Carnes. But again, tackling mental health and addiction are two issues I'm very passionate about. And we'd love to have everybody be a part of that conversation.
I love it. There's a question I'm dying to ask you. And sorry, Everett. Sorry, producer. How do you balance being a political figure that does a million different events and is everywhere and is ambitious and passionate to help people and serve your community with being a dad, a husband, a son, a person? So close us with Brian the Man, right? Brian the good human. How do you do this?
I don't know that I do it successfully. I just, get through each day. I have a great support staff, a wife that tries not to yell at me too much when I'm not home. No, she's very supportive, and she's somebody that allows me to be able to do what I do. Without that support, without having that base at home, I would not be able to do what I do. So that's how it gets done. You have a team, you work within that team, you trust each other as much as you can and make it happen. And without that, I just wouldn't be here. So Becky, love you. Thank you. Appreciate the support. My staff, because my staff does watch my kids sometimes too. And then being able to go to events with my kids, and it's really not easy, especially with their little, but it's very rewarding. And I hope that it's exposing them to positive things as well.
We are blessed with having the village and the family that we have. Shout out to my village, the father of my children, who's right now watching my three, especially the little one, because he'd be all over this, so that I can do something I'm passionate about. We are lucky to have the people in our lives who believe in us, who love us enough to say, we got you. Brian, thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For the audience out there, I survived episode 1, season 1 of episode 1 of season 1, the pilot season. I don't know how to do this all at the same time, so I'm going to look at my phone, and I want to say thank you to so many people that logged in and that came on here to watch us talk. I lost the screen, so now I don't remember who was on, but thank you, thank you, thank you. I think Courtney, I saw you. Faith, I saw you. Aunt Patty, thank you for coming on. Paul, I see so many incredible people that joined. I wish I can go back, but I can't figure out how to do it because I want to share my love to you all. Good humans, we are back in 2 weeks with another incredible individual who's going to share his life journey and his life story. Pastor Earl Miller, another friend of mine, because these are all friends, to be honest with you. But in the meantime, have you liked, followed, subscribe to our YouTube page? I have to get all the social media stuff down, but we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and we are on YouTube. And we will be sharing this video so that you can share it and help us get Brian's inspirational words out to the world. We don't do any of this alone, my friends. So Go out there, be a great human. Just just do it. Be a good human. Because at the end of the day, it's about being